Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the best free-to-play gems for your wizard. Let's go.
Now this video has been requested many times since I started my channel, and I'm not that confident on recommending legendary gems unless they're ones that I've used myself. So I'm just going to put this out there now. I'm not an expert on legendary gems, and this is just my personal opinion of what 1 and 2 star gems work well for wizard. So let's get to it. So kicking off, if you're using a primary based build, Castling's Invigoration is a good one to go for. So this increases the speed of your primary attack by 5.5%, and primary attack damage bonus is increased by 0.5% at rank 3. So this one I have used previously when I started in the game, and it's definitely a good starter gem if you're new to Diablo Immortal. You can also get copies of this from the Hilts trader each week. So that one is a good starting point if you're new to Wizard, new to Diablo Immortal, or if you are free to play and looking for a gem to help your primary attack builds, so raid builds and PvE builds, that sort of thing. So this gem is actually good for any class. I also use it on my free to play Necromancer in both PvE and PvP builds. Up next we have Berserker's Eye. So this one increases all skill damage you deal by 5.5%, but it does also increase all damage you take by 5%. Critical hit chance is increased by 0.5%. Now anything that increases critical hit chance is worth having in your build. Berserker's Eye is another gem that I used for a very long time on Wizard. I only replaced this, I think it was probably about 12 months ago. But yeah, Berserker's Eye is a good one. We've also got Trick Shot Gem. So if you're using a channeling skill, this is worth using. Your channel skills consume energy 8% slower, decrease all damage you take by 0.5% while using a channel skill. So obviously these percentages, I forgot to mention, will increase as you upgrade these gems. But Trick Shot Gem, if you're using something like Disintegrate Beam or Ray of Frost Beam, that works quite well. Now you do need to check the essences you're using to make sure it is the correct channeling skill. Everlasting Torment, this is a must-have for PvP on Necromancer and Wizard as well. If you are free to play, your critical hits inflict agony, dealing 10% base damage plus 122 every 6 seconds, cannot occur more than once every 20 seconds, and increases your attack speed by 1.5% for each nearby enemy afflicted with agony. So that one works really nicely. Again, a really strong PvP gem if you're free to play, and works beautifully on Wizard and Necromancer. Again, I've used this on both of my characters when I was new to the game. Now, Blessed Pebble is an option if you're using any buff skills in your build. So this increases the duration of your beneficial effect and increases movement speed by 2% for 3 seconds. So increases the duration of beneficial effects on you by 4% with that one. Now, beneficial effects are your buffs. So again, making sure what essences you're using and use this in the correct build with the skills that are turned into buffs from those essences you're using. I'll explain this in a little bit more detail in a second, because this may be confusing for people that are new to the game. Now moving on, we've got Entropic Well. So this increases skill damage by 6%, and skills attack speed is increased by 1%, unlocked at rank 3. So any skill damage, a lot of builds for Wizard are skill based rather than primary based, unless you're talking about PvE or raid builds. So PvP, Entropic Well is a nice one to go for because that is going to increase the damage from any of your skills. And obviously again, the percentages on this increase as you upgrade it. So looking at 2-star gems now, kicking off with Power and Command. Power and Command alternates every 9 seconds. Power increases your primary attack damage by 8%, and Command increases all other skill damage by 8%. So this one increases damage overall. You have a 7.5% chance to dispel negative effect on you each time Power and Command states alternate, and that is unlocked at rank 3. So again, really worth having in your PvP build. Another gem that I used when I first started in Diablo Immortal is pretty easy to rank up. I think I had mine to about rank 5 or 6 within just a few weeks of playing, but yeah, a good gem there. Bloody Reach is another gem that I've used previously. So this increases all damage you deal by 2% for every 2 yards between you and the enemy hit, up to a maximum of 8% at 8 yards. This one I used when I was doing a lot more of my ranged builds in PvP and PvE, whereas I do a lot of melee builds in PvE now. So with this one, your attacks have a 0.3% chance to decrease enemy movement speed by 35% for 3 seconds as well. So yeah, any ranged build that you're using or any range class, Bloody Reach is pretty good for. Works nicely on Demon Hunter as well, but for Wizard, if you're using those builds that are like a beam build where you're keeping your distance from enemies, this actually works pretty nicely. Now, Battle Guard I'd recommend for sure if you're low resonance and low combat rating. So this decreases all damage you take by 8% from enemies within 3 yards. You move unhindered through enemies while your life is below 15% at rank 3. So again, really nice in PvP. If you're someone that struggles with survivability, which wizards generally do, I'd recommend going for Battle Guard and giving that a try, because again, it's another gem that I used previously and I did find that it helped when I was starting off and learning in Diablo Immortal. Up next, we are going to look at Pain Clasp. So this is a must-have gem, whatever you are playing, whatever, whether you're free to play or whether you're pay to win. I think Pain Clasp is a must-have gem. I use this in my build and it's just amazing. So unlocked at rank 3, you get the bonus on this. I'm going to actually read out the details of that when I show you my version of it, because mine is at rank 10. So I want you to be able to see, obviously, the maximum bonuses you can get from that as well. And also Viper's Bite. So those two gems kind of go hand in hand. Again, Viper's Bite is another one that I have at rank 10, so I'll just let you read this off the screen for now. But this is a really powerful gem. I personally would say it is on par with Seeping Bile. So I do swap between Viper's Bite and Seeping Bile. I do sometimes test both of them. Let me know if you actually want me to share a video testing Viper's Bite against Seeping Bile to see which one gives the most damage in my PvE and PvP builds. We also have Mother's Lament. Again, this is another gem that I use, so I'm not going to read through this now. I think this is another must-have gem. Pain Clasp and Mother's Lament are in all of my builds, and I really think they are so strong for 2-star gems. I've actually tested Mother's Lament against my Gloom Cask. Now, yes, both gems do different things, but Mother's Lament still gave me more damage than my Gloom Cask at rank 5. So yeah, super strong gem, and again, it helps with your critical hit chance, but we'll look at that in a little bit more detail in a moment. So the next gem we're going to be looking at is one that I used for a little while, and that is Igneous Scorn. So I use this on my Necromancer. Your critical hits cause explosions that deal 40% base damage plus 486 to nearby enemies. These explosions cannot occur more often than once every 6 seconds, and after triggering an explosion, your damage is increased 2.5% for 2 seconds. So that increases overall damage, as well as obviously having that damage inflicted on other players that are nearby. So Igneous Scorn is a really nice one in PvP, and I do use this on my Necromancer. As I said, I did consider using this on my Wizard, but I mainly have 5-star gems, so I didn't actually swap that one out. But for Wizard, it is super powerful as well. Now, Cold Confidant is a fairly new gem, and this is another good one that I would recommend, especially for PvP. Dealing damage summons a pillar of ice at the enemy's location with life equal to 300% of your maximum life. Enemies near the pillar are chilled and dealt 15% base damage plus 344 each second. The pillar persists for 6 seconds or until destroyed. Ice Pillar life increased to 350% of your maximum life at rank 3. Now, this is another gem that I use on my Necromancer. As I mentioned, really good for PvP, but you can also use this in PvE. Now, Iron Bane is one that I have used previously as well. Your channeling skills have a 10% chance to dissolve enemy armor for 6 seconds, increasing the damage they take by 5%. Cannot occur against the same target more than once every 20 seconds. And the dissolve effect also reduces the movement speed of enemies by 4% at rank 3. Now, Iron Bane, if you're using a channeling build, works really nicely. So that's things like Arcane Torrent without certain essences, Disintegrate, and Ice Beam as well. Now, Ray of Frost, sorry. So this is Pain Clasp at rank 10, increases damage dealt by 24% to enemies suffering from a continuous damage effect. When an enemy suffering from a continuous damage effect is within 10 yards, your movement speed is increased by 6%. I also have the bonus resonance of damage taken while moving decreased by 3%. So I slotted a gem into that at rank 10 and get that bonus from the resonance there. Now, this one is Mother's Lament rank 10. So when you deal damage, you have a 20% chance of gaining Maternal Disdain, increasing your critical hit chance by 32% for 6 seconds. Cannot occur more often than once every 20 seconds. When Maternal Disdain ends, you release a blood spike toward nearby enemies, dealing 54% base damage to any enemies it hits, and also cause them to bleed. I then have bonus resonance on this as well, so you can see primary attack damage increase and skill damage increase as well by 2% on that. So that is why I like those 2-star gems. And then lastly, we've got Viper's Bite here as well. So damaging enemies poisons them with Viper's Venom, causing them to take 45% base damage plus 120 damage every second for 6 seconds. Enemies afflicted with Viper's Venom also have their attack speed reduced by 6%. Cannot occur on the same target more often than once every 20 seconds. So yeah, Viper's Bite is really strong in PvP. I actually prefer this over Seeping Bile, and I sometimes use both of them in my PvP build, or I use this instead of Seeping Bile. Now, what I mentioned about skills is here. So when you click on the different skills, I'm going to show you some that I'm using. So Arcane Torrent, you can see, is damage and buff. However, with particular essences on that, that will actually be a channeling skill. So buff skills, that's the one that I mentioned, would be good with Blessed Pebble. You can see Lightning Nova is another buff skill. Disintegrate is a buff here instead of a channeling skill because of the essence that I've got on that as well. So that's why I mentioned that when you're using different legendary gems, it's worth making sure that you're using ones that will actually work with the essences that you've got on your different skills as well. And you can see slow time here is a buff for me, which is why I use Vitus in this build. So I use 4 pieces of Vitus in this build because all 4 of my skills are actually a buff. So I'm just going to show you how the essences can change the overall effect of each skill. So we're going to change the essence on my shoulder here, and I'm literally just going to swap this out for Searing Judgment on Disintegrate. So this will change the effect that Disintegrate has, but it also changes the skill. So you can see here, this is now a channel skill. So this is why I mentioned that there's specific gems that help with channeling, and they'll be the ones that would work best if you're using that essence within the build. So take a look at your skills, take a look at the build that you want to go for, and then look at legendary gems and which ones work the best within that. Now there's one more gem that I'm going to touch on, which is the new Morn Skull legendary gem. So this launches very soon, and this one summons the spirit of the Lich King, and this is going to be super strong in PvP. I have more information on this on my recent video about the Diablo Immortal and World of Warcraft collaboration, but this gem has a lot of potential and I think will be really strong for, again, all classes in PvP, but you could also use this in PvE as well. And what's more, you will get a free copy of that just from logging into game during the Diablo Immortal and World of Warcraft event. So that is it from me today. I hope you found this video helpful. If you're new to Diablo Immortal, please drop me a comment and say hi. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.